In this segment, I'm going to talk about auto sequence control, and that tool is found here on the left-hand toolbar. So to use this tool, I think what I'm going to do is open up one of the designs that came installed with the software. So I'll open up this design. I found it in the Creative Monogram samples found under your public documents folder of your computer. And so once that design's opened up on my screen, we're just going to take a look at, I guess first of all, I don't see my sequence manager anywhere on my screen, and so I can turn that back on by going to the View drop-down menu, and right here where it says Sequence Manager, I'm going to turn that on. And basically it shows everything in our design as sort of one layer, or I guess one tray, one way or another. It shows the entire design here in the Sequence Manager. Now, the tool that I wanted to talk about is here. It's called Auto Sequence Control. And I think perhaps what I'll do before I use the tool, I'm just going to select one of these objects, second one of these objects. So I just held the Control key down and clicked on those two objects. And I'm just going to change their color, so I'll make them be a dark blue fill as opposed to the burgundy. So basically if I click to let go, you can see I've got two set in blue and two set in burgundy, and then the lettering in black. So technically there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items or embroidery objects in our design. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose that Auto Sequence Control. And it gives me three options, and there's different, I guess, strategies that can be used. And so basically the sort of nothing, just leave the design as is, or simple, rearrange objects, and advanced, rearrange and modify objects if needed. We'll talk more about these different strategies in a little minute, but just for now I'm just going to simply leave it with the simple, nothing, just rearrange, just automatically sequence the design, and I'll say OK. And so now if you look at that sequence manager, you'll notice that what was one embroidery object is now 5 embroidery objects. See, there's the 1, 2, 3, and there's the small scroll bar here. Scroll down, and so I can actually see there's the item number 1. So the lettering is first, then this is next, and then that blue one is next, and then sort of scrolling up that list, another burgundy one, and another blue one. So it showed me the sequence of this design. Now you can actually, with this sequence view, I have the ability to change, first of all, you can minimize it, zip it up, then click on that again, kind of expand it. This option here, what that does is, see right now it's showing me the object in its location within the design. If I click on this button, it will show me all objects sort of maximized within the space. It doesn't relate to where it is within the design any longer. You'll probably notice as I hover over these little trays in the Sequence Manager that it quickly finds its way to the object that I'm hovering over, like that. And so that's one thing that's interesting about it. And so if I go back to this view, it just simply keeps things in proportion of the design. Now, so you can see there's these different trays, but it's done nothing to changing the sewing sequence. So the way the design's going to sew is black, red, blue, red, blue. So you now have the ability to select this, for example, red tray, and click and drag to move it up and change its sewing order. And so I basically just dragged it up. So now the design sews black, blue, and then it sews pink, and then it'll come back to blue. And so I could take the blue and drag it down a couple trays so that I've got it sort of sewing. The sewing order is now black, blue, and then the pink, and then pink. So the concept is, by using the auto sequence control, it automatically sort of separates the parts of your design and then gives you the ability to move their sewing sequence by using this Sequence Manager. It also makes it easy to find embroidery objects because it'll move to show you which ones they are right away. And so that's a little bit more about using this sequence manager. And notice here I can actually even expand the size of it depending on how big you've got your workspace. You can have more trays showing at one time. So I was able to get all 5 trays to show there just by sort of clicking and dragging the bottom corner of the sequence manager to be longer. So that's your sequence manager and your auto sequence control. Now, talking about the other options in this whole optimization strategy, and again, I think this relates a little bit more towards having the full version of Artistic Sewing Suite, where you may be getting into sort of more involved embroidery designs and embroidery layouts. But the concept is, if I look under the File drop-down menu for the Designs Properties, under Design Properties, you have a General tab. You can set some things like your design, who the designer was, keywords, and some remarks. But this is where you find the Optimizer strategy, and this is going to be something you can customize on a per design basis. So this is the Optimizer strategy for this design, and so we have the ability to change things like the applique frame out distance and the trimming distance between objects. So some things in here, like applique frame out distance, well, they aren't even going to really be applicable in the Artistic Monogram because we don't have that applique, ability. But the one thing we do have is the optimization strategy and the concept that you can change those things. So this is where you would make changes to your optimization strategy. And like I said, I really don't see that this is something that's fully intended for use as in the monogram, because we're going to be dealing with relatively straightforward, simple embroidery designs, and the need for changing the sequence is probably fairly simple. But as you get involved with more and more complex designs, and if you move towards the Artistic Sewing Suite, then you may want to learn a lot more about the specific abilities of running the different methods of auto sequence control. And so I try to describe it. I think what I've shown is generally what I see us using, but this may be a good place where if you really want to fully learn what all of the options of optimization of the auto sequence control is in the optimizer, then we could read about those things by just simply clicking on the help button, clicking on this auto sequence control, and it's going to give us the ability to learn more about the automatic embroidery sequence and the optimization strategies and these sorts of things. So yeah, that's a little bit more about how to use the auto sequence control and the sequence manager.